Hello and welcome to Latin Forum's first ever athletic interview. Today we have Jack Werner, 4-year varsity player for the Latin men's ice hockey team and captain of this year's hockey team. Nice to be with you, Jack.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
No problem. Well, to begin, I want you to give me a little overview on the hockey team, the roster, the coaches, and where the players kind of come from, because I know they're not all Latin students. And what comprises the team?
Well, the Latin team this past year had about 20 guys. I'd say 8 or 9 from Latin, and the rest come from Lab, Whitney Young, and Parker, which is actually really nice for us. We get to make friends with kids from these other schools. The coach has really no affiliation with Latin, just a guy who played some pro hockey, and Mr. McCussion runs the program for the school.
That's excellent. What are your practices like, your travel schedules? What are games like? Because I know you play at McFetridge, I think.
Yeah, we play at McFetridge and Johnny's and the Saddle. And the schedule can be pretty brutal. The regular season has 24 games per season. We're usually on the ice 5-6 nights a week. If we don't have games, we're practicing, usually 4 practices a week. And those are hour and a half, and far, far away, late at night.
So, I know you travel a lot. I know that paying for ice time is probably pretty expensive. What is the payment like, and where does it come from?
Each student pays about $3,000, and then the school subsidizes a fair chunk of it.
Okay, so it's a lot from the players, but a little bit from the school as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so over the years, what has been kind of the history of the Latin program? When have been your best years, and what have the results been like compared, statewide to some other bigger schools?
The program was founded, I think, in 2003, and we've had a lot of success. We've had 2 state finals appearances. 2 years ago and 3 years ago, we won our league, tied for first. We didn't have the best season win-loss last year, but I think there's a lot more to the team than just wins and losses. And, it's a really brutal sport to play, but I think kids take a lot from it. And this might not be what you're asking, but there are a lot of classes in Latin we take. We learn how to do calculus or learn how to do biology, but you don't really learn character. And I think the Latin team really teaches you character and sticking through rough seasons, and building that brotherhood, and going out late at night. Driving to Crystal Lake on a Tuesday for an 8:00 game. That endurance and that perseverance, I think that is really significant. And if you talk to people who've played, I think that's what they'll talk about.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. Okay, now I want more of step inside the shoes of maybe a New Trier or a Barrington, really big high schools. When they look on a program like Latin's, what do you think they say? Because obviously they've only known you for about 7 years, but what has the legacy been probably so far that a big, public program would, talk about a small school like us?
I think they talk most about the toughness and the heart. Barrington entered our league 5 years ago, and their first season they had 1 loss, and it's us.
Nice.
Last season, Barrington finished 4th in the state, and they beat us 3-2. So we'll play these huge, amazing schools, and we'll play them hard. And that speaks to the toughness and the character of the guys.
Yeah, and that gets the small schools program out in the statewide. It's a pretty good market.
And the girls program won state a couple years ago. The guys went to back-to-back state finals. We're competitive for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so in the past maybe past 2 years, while you've been an upperclassman, has there ever been any talk about kind of this whole disbanding of the team, or that the ice hockey team's program it's too expensive? So has there been rumors of that? Have you heard of that
There's
before?
been zero.
Never.
And that was part of what was so frustrating to people on the team, is that we'd heard nothing, and then all of a sudden it's over.
Yeah. So what was your reaction if you hear about this email that comes out that the board just decides to cut the ice hockey program? Even though you're gone, you'll be a sophomore in college when it's done. What was your reaction? What was the team's reaction?
I think my reaction and the team's reaction was the same, and that's that it has to stay. And we started a Facebook group that overnight has 400 people.
Yeah, and that was from an alum.
Pete Mathias.
Yeah, that just shows probably the what worth and what weight it had in his life. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and like I was saying, you can't measure the success of the program in wins and losses and how many Latin kids there are. Mm-hmm. It's so much more about personality and character. And then for a alum of 2005 to start that group really shows that.
Yeah, and so I know Mr. McCutcheon's been out a while sick, but he's obviously heard the news. Have you guys talked about what are your plan of action maybe for the younger kids or the coaches right now to maybe bring a little life back into it to prove to the board or to the school that maybe it can be funded other ways or that it should continue? Is there any talk about that?
Yeah, there was a parents meeting on Monday that met with Fergie and Shelley Greenwood and some people like that. And what came out of that meeting was that a while ago, the Sustainability Committee at Latin, they're sort of looking for things to cut. Because, the economy's tough, and I understand that.
Yes.
And just on the surface, they said, we pay $40,000 a year for hockey. How about we just cut that? There aren't that many kids.
Right.
And they didn't really look into, how important hockey is to the people who play it, how many young kids there are coming up. Like 7th grade, I think there are about 20 kids already. And so they just said, we're done with it. And what the meeting on Monday got us is that they're going to have a harder look at it and say, if you can find some of the financing that the school gives, you can probably keep it.
Okay, well, let me have your final thought here. Say you're sitting down right here and you have the entire board, the administration, and Fergie, sitting across from you, and you have 30 seconds to give them a reason to keep hockey. I mean, what would you say? What would be your overall core message you would want to give to them?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I guess just back to what I was saying before about how, you can teach someone calculus, you can teach someone biology, but it's really hard to teach someone character and to teach all these important traits that, matter so much more in life than, a B on a calculus test or whatever. And I think hockey really does that. And it's grueling and it's brutal, but it's so much fun. And the kids who come out of it love it. And, we have probably half our team go on to play college hockey and, have great grades and do great things and be really strong people.
That's very good. Thank you very much, Jack Werner, for your time.
Thanks for having me.
That was the Latin Forum's first ever sports interview. Thanks a lot.